Are you looking for better shooting experience? How about a facility where you can shoot all of your firearms in the same day, where you can move and shoot steel, draw from the holster, and practice your rifle work out to 600 yards? Shoot a very challenging sporting clays course or a round of trap or skeet. You can do all that and much more at the Aurora Sportsman's Club. Hi, I'm David Lombardo, president of the Aurora Sportsman's Club. If you love the outdoors, you'll want to know all about Northern Illinois' largest outdoor shooting facility, the Aurora Sportsman's Club. If you're a novice looking for a basic course, an experienced shooter looking for an advanced course, or perhaps you want to participate in your favorite shooting event, or just spend an enjoyable day with a family, the Aurora Sportsman's Club is the only shooting facility in the region that offers all that and more. Interested? Then you won't want to miss the next orientation and tour of the Aurora Sportsman's Club. Call, email, or visit our website today to find out how you can become part of a better shooting experience at the Aurora Sportsman's Club in Waterman, Illinois.
He is the human Molotov cocktail that they can legally throw into the system that stole their lives from them.
So we're going to create a new government that serves you, your family, and your country.
It's time for On Target Radio, Chicagoland's only radio show dedicated to the red meat issues that affect your life, from gun control to freedom of speech. Now, debating, debunking, and discussing today's hot issues, here are your hosts, David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz.
Welcome to On Target Radio. Tonight, David's rant of the week is, now do you understand why the big push for gun control? With David and Gretchen taking a look at the rapid rise in violence by the liberal social justice warrior mob. Then, even as the violence rises, the liberal media mostly ignores it and continues to call for more gun control. And you remember how liberals argued that voter fraud was a conservative fantasy? Well, prosecutors are charging a dozen Democratic operatives with a massive scandal that may have tainted as many as 45,000 voters. And finally, you will not believe what Germany's Angela Merkel had to say about the country's future. All that and more on tonight's On Target Radio. So give us a call at 815-205-1584. That's 815-205-1584. Or go to Facebook, like our page On Target Radio, and ask a question or make a comment there.
And now, from the seething cauldron of personal opinion, it's time for David's Rant of the Week.
Okay, now do you understand why liberals want gun control? It's never been about the children or accidental shootings, suicides, or the outrageous violence in some communities. The leaders of the liberal movement, the George Soros and Michael Bloomberg types, have never given a damn about any of those things. It has always been about disarming John Q. Public so he couldn't fight back. It's a coup that's been in the making for well over 50 years, in which John Q. was slowly indoctrinated through the educational system, violent computer games, and the media, including print, film, television, theater, and music. And James Hodgkinson is the proof. Hodgkinson is not the first liberal to commit violence against conservatives, but he is the first that can be so clearly and inextricably linked to radicalization by the leftist political agenda. When the term social justice warrior was coined, it was an army of Hodgkinsons they had in mind. It's an army of naive, impressionable, malleable automatons that would mindlessly become the spearhead of liberalism that changes the nature of this country through violence. What the leaders of the social justice warriors see is literally a coup that will instill uber-wealthy, self-interest megalomaniacs as dictators to implement a profoundly radical political and social change. They, of course, don't want to get their hands dirty, hence the creation of this social justice warrior to do their dirty work. What the Hodgkinsons of the movement don't see is when the coup is over, they're going to realize they've been duped. John Q. will have long since been disarmed, leaving the social justice warriors as the only armed segment of society because they're operating illegally to begin with and never gave up their arms. The irony is they now become enemies of the state, and they're going to hang in the town square, probably literally. If you have the slightest doubt that Hodgkinson was a tool of the social justice warrior leadership, you missed an important fact. Mainstream media has portrayed the 66-year-old Hodgkinson as a crazed and unhinged gunman, but the facts starkly contrast that image. Hodgkinson, a hardcore Bernie Sanders supporter who was a big fan of the narcissistic Rachel Maddow, openly hated Republicans, made no bones about it on his Facebook page, and was quite specific about his social justice warrior philosophy. If that's not enough, there's the document he carried on his person. The FBI discovered a list of Republican names on his body that called out targets for him to hunt. Most were congressmen and members of the House Freedom Caucus, the most conservative members of the House. Without question, Hodgkinson took it to heart that they should be eliminated and decided to assassinate a bunch as they practiced for an upcoming charity baseball game. For their part, liberals didn't skip a beat blaming lack of gun control for the rampage and began calling for more. Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe, a Democrat, held a press conference and said, and I quote, "I think we need to do more to protect all of our citizens. We lose 93 million Americans a day to gun violence." He said 93 million several times, until one journalist called him out on it. McAuliffe said he meant 93. Within hours of the attack, liberals flooded social media with comments such as, "The GOP deserves the violence," expressions that someone finally did something, and Congressman Scalise got what he deserved. And there were claims that the Republican agenda of smaller government, non-socialist health care, voter ID laws, and fewer gun control laws were tyranny. Only a liberal could equate less government control with tyranny. If only these were isolated incidents, but earlier this week, the conservative news site Constitution ran an article by Onan Coca titled, "Liberal Violence in America is Becoming Commonplace, a Non-Exhaustive List of Examples." In it, Coca details a long list of recent liberal violence against conservatives. It includes a white Antifa member calling a black man Uncle Tom and punching him in the face simply because the man disagreed with Antifa and tried to calmly discuss it with him. Then there's the ethics professor Eric Clanton, also an Antifa member, who smashed a bike lock over a man's head. And it was Antifa's threats of violence that were responsible for shutting down the Rose Parade for the first time in 81 years. And let's not forget that protesters at Berkeley started fires, hurled rocks and fireworks at police, smashed student center windows, and caused the campus to lock down simply because a conservative speaker was scheduled to give a talk on campus. What better indicator that the social justice warriors are totally out of control than uber-liberal British commentator Piers Morgan publicly condemning liberals' hypocritical and violent rhetoric against Trump? Amidst all this insanity, conservatives, that segment of the population which is heavily armed and typically well-trained, are the ones showing restraint. And the social justice warriors know it. Imagine if they knew we were all disarmed and they would never encounter armed resistance. What might the streets look like in that dynamic? Which leads me to ask once again, now, do you understand why liberals want gun control? And that, Gretchen, is my rant for the week.
Well, we've been talking about this for a long time, and obviously it's part of the agenda, the socialist agenda to take over America and tear us down from the inside.
And my rant just took up the entire segment.
That was magical.
Well, that was magical. Well, see how easy it is to fill a segment when that happens? It's I love it, you know. I should do a rant every segment.
I could just stay home.
Yeah, actually the clock says we have 40 seconds.
Your rant went over, so I was generous and gave you a little more time.
Nice guy.
Safer USA, Chicago's most trusted name in firearm training, is offering beginners classes, tactical pistol and rifle, long-range rifle to 600 yards, and the most comprehensive Illinois concealed carry program available. The On Target Radio co-hosts David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz will prepare you to carry a firearm for personal protection, including firearm, holster, and ammunition selection. A comprehensive law review designed to keep you out of trouble and even how to deal with home invasions. Firearm, ammunition, holster, class notebook, and lunch are provided. Safer USA and the Aurora Sportsman's Club invites you to participate in this one-of-a-kind Illinois concealed carry program that also qualifies you for Florida, Utah, and Arizona non-resident permits. Find out what over 6,000 students already know at saferusa.com.
Or call 815-741-3474. That's 815-741-3474. Safer USA. Choosing to own a firearm is your business. Teaching you to own it responsibly is ours.
Do you dread writing? Is it challenging to find just the right words to get your point across? Do you put off developing marketing materials because you just don't know where to start? You get one chance to make a first impression, and my editor, Creative Business Services, can help make it a strong, positive one. Hi, this is Gretchen Fritz, co-host of On Target Radio, and I'd like to tell you about My Editor, a business I started to help you overcome those concerns. What you're experiencing is very common. My Editor has helped business owners, candidates for political office, and even authors and public speakers. At My Editor Creative Business Services, we can simply edit your existing work or help you develop an entire writing plan of action from initial project design through final copy. We are easy to work with and will help you get your point across in the most effective manner. If words escape you, send me an email at myeditor@mail.com. Use My Editor Creative Business Services and go to print with confidence. That's myeditor@mail.com or find us on Facebook.
You're listening to On Target Radio with David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz. Here's David and Gretchen with more interesting conversation on gun control, concealed carry, freedom of speech, and other red meat issues that affect your life.
This is, we're back on schedule, I think, right?
Yep.
There we go, good. This has been coming a long time. I mean, back in the 60s and 70s, we had all that. I mean, it wasn't quite this bad, but it was, I mean, they were...
Oh, you had the Black Panthers and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they were doing some pretty nasty stuff back then.
Yeah, the Weather Underground,
Yeah.
the Bill Ayers people
Yeah.
and stuff.
And it leads me to believe that this literally has been in the works probably since the Great Society, since I don't know that Johnson himself did, but he certainly got a ball rolling. There's no doubt about that. Mm-hmm. But you just think about it.
I think it was even before that.
You think really?
The socialist agenda, yeah.
McCarthy?
That
McCarthy
came up.
days?
Yeah, that came up earlier than that. Yeah.
But back
it's like
then,
the
the
30s.
sentiment wasn't the sentiment across the country was very anti-communism.
Yeah, it was definitely more of a it was an underground thing. It was more veiled, you know, but they came up with, okay, this is how we're going to take America down and make it socialist. And I want to say that was the 1930s.
McCarthy was in the 40s.
I thought he was in the 50s.
Wasn't it late 40s or maybe early 50s?
Yeah, might have been late
something
40s.
Like that. But there's been,
I just remember the haircuts.
There's been, I've been thinking of cutting my hair that way. There's been a steady desensitization towards violence in general. And I don't know that this was actually the beginning, but there was a movie, I think it was called High Noon, if I recall, Gary Cooper, where it was sort of an anti-hero kind of thing. You know, up to that point, good guys wore white, bad guys wore black. It's kind of a metaphor, but you know, it was very clear. You were good or you were bad, and the bad guys always lost. All cowboy movies, up to that point, all cowboy movies were basically, what's the word I want? Morality plays. Exactly. Yes, that's exactly right. They were morality plays, and kids my age literally grew up watching those things and going, "Oh, you can't do that. That's wrong." Mm-hmm. And then we started with this sort of anti-hero thing. And the anti-hero was always, in the beginning, it was always just some average guy who, you know, was kind of borderline. He did this or he did that. But people related to him. Mm-hmm. And then he managed to topple the big bad sheriff, or, you know what I'm saying? It was this sort of slow reversal, anti-government kind of thing, and it evolved very slowly. But when you look back on it, it's very clear. I think it's been very clear. And then they started coming out with games that literally you got points for killing people, stealing cars, killing cops, that kind of thing. there was a time when you literally could not produce that game.
Oh, right.
They
yeah.
just literally would not allow it.
Well, no one would ever think of such a thing. I mean, when you were a kid, no one would have ever come up with such a game.
I'm a boomer, and so my father was in World War II, and that was clearly black and white in terms of, at least from our perspective.
You're an earlier boomer. My dad's like, my parents are like later boomers.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I mean, that's not what was going on at that time.
And I think the interesting thing about it is because nobody is pure. I mean, everybody does stuff, but when you did something, you have this guilt inside of you about it. It wasn't something you would brag about or talk about.
Well, and I think that the consequences were clearer to you. I mean, they had been made clear to you when, well, not you. You were a spoiled rich kid, but
nuns didn't care how much money.
Okay, so okay, at least as far as that went, you had some moral baseline to work from, so that's good. But yeah, I mean, I think the way that we were raised, even up to the 70s when I was growing up, I think you respected authority, and like I said, the consequences were more clear at that time.
Yeah, exactly.
Than later.
This guy Hodgkinson is, as I said in the rant, there have been liberals who've done things to conservatives, but I really think this it's very clear. I mean, it's very, very clear. He has bought into the whole thing, and he made no bones about it. It was on Facebook. It was everything permeated.
He had given news interviews to the media.
Exactly.
He had written letters to media outlets, letters to the editor. He'd written to Rachel Maddow. He was in love with Rachel Maddow apparently, which that tells you something. The interesting thing is his age. When I first heard his age, and before I heard all the other stuff that they found on his Facebook page and stuff, my immediate thought was, oh, he's afraid he's going to lose his health care. That was because he's 66. That was my first thought was, oh, they're going to take my Medicare away or whatever.
Yeah.
Some kind of craziness like that. What I was saying to Eric before we went on the air is that it's funny because we've been talking about John Brown Society people. And, this guy would very well fit in with the John Brown Society.
Yeah. Well, and the liberals, and I have to say that I think the vast majority of liberals, literally of liberals, are well-intentioned. They believe, like we believe what we believe. They believe what they believe, and they may be willing to cheat on the votes and stuff like that. But the vast majority of them, I don't think, want to do bodily harm to people. But the media covers those few that are psychopaths. Really, I mean, they're total nutcases, and that's what gets all the glory. And anytime there's any sort of violent thing, the media either just completely brushes over it, ignores it, or they whitewash it.
If it doesn't work to their advantage.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Yeah.
They just whitewash it. And we got a thing coming up here about that happened in Texas in the legislature, which is like, it's like the third world country. But you had, was it CNN? I think it was CNN, right before the election, openly on the news, well, it's not news, openly on
CNN.
the show on CNN, talking about if Trump gets assassinated, Obama might be able to stay in power.
How can we prevent him from being inaugurated?
Right.
Yeah.
How is that not sedition? I don't understand how they can say and do those kinds of things. If we said and did that against Obama,
we'd be taken away in handcuffs.
Absolutely. This is like unbelievable.
It is. They're I've always said, they're lousy with double standards.
But the problem is we're in control. Well, let me take that back. It's a bad choice of words. We are in numbers.
Yes.
And an interesting point is made.
We're in control of the government technically, but we're not in control of people, and we're not in control of the media.
And that's really
which is really why we soldier on. I mean, it's it's not like we think we're the Messiah or anything, but we feel that new media is really the only way that we can combat the the MSNBCs and the CNNs of the world.
I trace this back, the media thing, back literally to 60 Minutes. Did you ever see that show?
Oh yeah, I've seen it.
So, up to that point, in fact, people were shocked to discover one of the great pillars of journalism was Walter Cronkite.
Okay.
Everybody respect Walter. This is Walter Cronkite reporting from Beirut or whatever.
That was a little before my time.
Yeah, but he was literally, I think everybody, pillar of journalism. Everybody trusted him. Republicans, Democrats, he was the pillar. We come to find out years later that he was hardcore liberal. Mm-hmm. Now, was he tainting stories or not? Who knows? In retrospect, who knows? But they started 60 Minutes. Up until that point, there were two clear things, and they were divided by a wall. There was editorial, and there was news. Mm-hmm. And those two did not cross.
Yes.
And they would say that. They come on, this is morally safer editorial on whatever.
Right.
That's his opinion. Okay, right. I can deal with that. Whatever his opinion is, that's his opinion. Mm-hmm. 60 Minutes began to do opinion and making it sound like it was news.
They started to blur the line.
They did. And the longer they went.
But it wasn't that. The thing with 60 Minutes is they would weave it all together.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what you're talking about. They were blurring the line by weaving it all together.
Right.
They
took news.
They would do an in-depth story.
Exactly.
They would give you background on some topic, but then they would weave in their editorial.
But they didn't tell you that.
Right. No, of course
They made
not.
it all sound because you trusted them. Mm-hmm. Because at that point, people trusted the media.
Right.
And we saw how well that worked out. Now, they're leading this charge. They literally are leading this charge. When CNN, who humorously always calls itself the most trusted name in,
cable news.
The most trusted name in what?
Yeah.
Advertising. When they actually talk about, if he gets assassinated, then maybe Obama stays in power. If this guy dies and that guy.
Yeah. If this and this happened, yeah.
So this guy gets a list for the news to try and whitewash this is ridiculous. He has a list of Republicans who belong to the most conservative caucus in Congress, and it's a hit list.
Yeah.
His plan is to take them all out if he can.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get more political than that.
Nope. I did, in their defense, I did hear that reported on NBC.
Hear what?
That he had a list in his pocket.
Oh, yeah. No, it came out. It came out, yeah. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is, initially, they were, because and I forget who the congressman was, but as that guy was walking toward the baseball field, he asked a congressman who was leaving early to go to some meeting or something, I think with his kid. He said, are those Republicans or Democrats?
Right.
And the guy probably was thinking, baseball team. Is, what I'm saying? He's got, they're the Republicans. Mm-hmm. That was it.
Right. Not
all
even
it took.
suspecting that it was anything like that. Right.
And one of the truly interesting things that came out of this is the observation by, and God knows I don't suggest for a second that this was a good thing to happen, but one of the interesting things that came out of it is one of those congressmen goes, all we had was baseball bats. If there weren't security there because that was a House leader, that's the only reason those guys were there.
Yeah.
Now politicians are discovering what it means to be able to defend yourself. And I'm not suggesting that it was a good thing that this happened, but I am suggesting that they live in a protected bubble. Mm-hmm. And I think that bubble has just burst.
Actually, Mo Brooks is the one who said that, and he's one of the people that was on the list.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And now we're finding lots of people are on lists like that. DeVos has to have full-time security now.
Sure.
See, that position never needed security.
Yeah. Secretary of Education.
Right. What? The kid's going to stab her with a crayon? What?
Yeah. I have too much college debt. I kill you now.
Yeah. That's not funny, but I can see it happening. When we come back, we'll probably say a few more odds and ends about this very thing, but we're also going to talk about Democratic fraud, voter fraud, which, of course, they tell us doesn't exist. All that and more when we return with On Target Radio. Hi, I'm David Lombardo, co-host of On Target Radio, and I'd like to offer you a partnership opportunity. For over 4 years, On Target Radio covered the red meat issues that affect your life, from gun control to freedom of speech on AM 560 The Answer. But a 1-minute commercial was $200, making it tough to find enough sponsors. So last November, we left AM 560 and began podcasting. There's a learning curve to podcasting, and we've worked through the kinks and would now like to make you an offer. You can have a 60-second audio or video commercial for as little as $25 a week. We can also offer fellow conservatives their own radio or video podcast for as little as $100 a week, with equipment and technical personnel included. You provide the content and host, plus get 6 free minutes of commercial time you can sell yourself. If you'd like to be an On Target Radio sponsor or explore the possibility of having your own show, call me at 815-741-3474, and let's explore the possibilities together.
You're listening to On Target Radio with David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz. Here's David and Gretchen with more interesting conversation on gun control, concealed carry, freedom of speech, and other red meat issues that affect your life.
This segment is brought to you by the Will County Grassroots Division of the Illinois State Rifle Association. Join like-minded friends supporting the right to keep and bear arms in Illinois at 7 p.m. on the third Wednesday of the month at the Silver Dollar Restaurant in Elwood, Illinois.
Speaking of the ISRA, we had a nice time yesterday at the NRA Day at the range. Mm-hmm. We cut the thing, we put it up. It's on Facebook and it's on YouTube. Yeah. So we did coverage of the Illinois State Rifle Association's open house. And the interesting thing that's in that is Don, president of the ISRA, sort of did an overview of the litigation that ISRA has been very instrumental. How did we get to, Chicago now has to be allowed gun stores, and how do we get concealed carry and all that. So it's an interesting primer on that subject. This list that came out in Constitution is, 5.5 pages, mm-hmm. one lines of violent stuff that these people have done. And it's clearly not worth going through 5.5 pages of stuff. But some of the stuff is pretty far over the top.
Yeah, absolutely. This guy who writes for Constitution.com says liberal cultural leaders have been all too happy to use violent rhetoric, and they've called us evil, fascists, Nazis, racists, hate mongers, etc. But it's really their people who are reacting that way, who are doing that stuff.
No irony there.
No, not at all. Not at all.
They're always telling us how we shouldn't have guns because, we're psychopaths.
Because we're the ones that can't control ourselves.
We're the ones that are being, chill about this.
Well, and, that's going back to what you said at the top about, of course, they want gun control. This is what they want to do to us, is attack us. And it's not going to happen. I actually had a friend ask me this morning in church if there was any negative towards Republicans as a result of the shooting. And I said, no, actually, if anything, it's positive for us. If anything, it shows it shows that what is actually going on, of what level we're actually being attacked.
Even Democrats, a number of them have come out and said this is screwed up.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and as you say, most liberals are not these people. They're not the people wearing masks out in the street, punching people in the face. But yeah, I mean, there's crazy stuff going on.
And here's the thing. It truly is irrational because look, here's a woman who has a nail put through a flagpole and she's hitting a horse with it. It's a police horse. She's hitting a horse in the neck.
That's disgusting.
Was the horse Republican? Well,
right.
This is just nonsensical stuff. When Berkeley, when the university, when they burn their own campus,
Yeah.
There's no logic. There's no logic to that whatsoever.
No.
These are people being just psychos. They
Well,
really are.
they're acting out like children, practically. They're like savages. Yeah, and they're attacking the president's minor child, which is
that's another one.
Completely off limits.
Yeah.
I mean, even most Democrats would say that's off limits.
Yeah.
You know, and the fact that you know, Kathy Griffin and you know, other people are attacking him is just completely unacceptable. You know, this guy named Pete Blackburn tweets Barron Trump has killed no less than 100 small animals. Saturday Night Live writer tweets Barron will be the first homeschool shooter, and I don't think he's homeschooled, so I don't even know where that's coming from.
It's, you know, here's somebody who sets a Trump supporter's hair on fire. Look, these people are going to be like ISIS.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they really are. They're getting to be like ISIS, and it's they're not being held accountable. I'm telling you, well, every once in a while, like, there've been a couple of motorcycle clubs, which this just tickles me. You know, these big burly gruff guys wearing colors and stuff, and you know, they're probably extorting you down on the corner, but they're going, "Hey, this is America," you know. Like, I've seen videos of them confronting these guys, and these people really are stupid to pick on people like that.
And helping defend the police at some of
Yeah.
these, you know, violent rallies and stuff by these type of liberal people. This was one that happened either Inauguration Day or maybe the night before the inauguration. They had an event called the Deplorable for the conservatives in Washington, D.C. I had forgotten about this, but they had water and eggs thrown at them as they were walking in. They're like dressed up in ball gowns and tuxedos, and they're getting eggs and water thrown on them.
This is like the anti-fur people who'll pick on somebody wearing, you know, mink or something like that and throw blood on them or dye,
paint,
whatever,
yeah.
or paint. I would, if they did to me, I would kick the living crap out of them.
Oh, yeah.
I would just literally, that's assault. It's
Yeah.
battery, excuse me, it's battery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I do want to get to the other thing that we actually had slated for this segment, and that's what happened in Texas. Just once again to show you how the news is stacking the deck, they reported how a member of the Texas legislature threatened to put a bullet in the head of another member of the Texas legislature. And the thing that's very interesting about this, and I should put a thing in, by the way. If you've got some thoughts on this subject, give us a call at 815-205-1584. If you got some thoughts about this, please do give us a call. But the thing that's interesting out of all of this stuff about that altercation, and we can talk a little bit about literally what happened and so on, but the journalist who wrote, he said that he would put a bullet in his head, which he did not say.
Right.
When confronted, said, well, there's no proof that he didn't say it.
Seriously. Is that where we're at?
That's literally what he goes. So what's happened is they aren't even simply just manufacturing news. They're blatantly ignoring any truth at all. They just ignore, even when it's confronted. When people said he didn't say that, they're just ignoring it and go, well, there's no proof he didn't say it. How do you prove something? You know, that's, what do they call it? Is that a double? There's a name for that in philosophy. I can't remember what it's called. You can't.
Like double negative?
Well, you can't prove something isn't.
Oh, yeah, I don't know what that's called.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You can't say, well, you know, there's no snail there, you know, snail there. There could be. You can't prove that something isn't.
Right.
What happened was it was toward the end of the legislative session, and they got into some confrontation back and forth about they wanted to pass a law that did away with sanctuary cities in Texas. Mm-hmm. And so a fairly large and they say boisterous group of self-described illegal immigrants, they themselves claim that they were illegal immigrants, flooded into the chamber and actually went onto the floor, which is illegal.
Yes.
And one of the members of the legislature is apparently looking at his name as Hispanic, and got into it with this guy, with the other one. And he's the one, when they started shouting back and forth, who said, "You have to leave this building. I know where you park your car. I'm going to get you."
Right.
He said it. And after a couple of threats like that, after him repeating it, the guy goes, "I'm armed and I'll defend myself."
Right. The Rinaldi is the one who they say said he'll put a bullet in your head.
Right.
But what he said is, "I'm armed and I'll defend myself."
After being specifically threatened.
Mm-hmm.
And that, of course, turned it, "I'll put a bullet in your head."
Right.
Yeah. And then the press picked up on it, and it went crazy, went across the country, and everybody reported it. And his staffers, they tried to say, "You got to change the headline." It's not true. You can talk to people. It's on video.
Right.
Okay.
Well, that's what they're saying is there's several people took cell phone video, and it shows the demonstrators pushing and shoving Rinaldi, who said he would defend himself, and they're pushing and shoving him, and he said he told the protesters he was going to call ICE on them.
They did say that they were
Which
illegal
seems
immigrants.
appropriate to me.
I know. I think I told you about the guy. We were laughing about it, I think, last week, about the guy who went to I think it was in Los Angeles, wherever it was. There's a corner where illegal immigrants hang out to get find day work.
Uh-huh.
And he showed up in a pickup truck, and he said, "Oh, I need, I don't know, 10. Oh, come on, get in. I need more." And drove
him over to customs.
And they all bailed out and go running in different directions. Anyway, the point is it's a classic, and this is Texas. You would think in Texas.
Yeah, it's a little surprising. But, Texas isn't what it used to be.
That's true.
I've heard people saying that, and from what I'm reading, it's true. But this writer, Mary Spaeth, is saying, "I submit that fake news at its core is reporting in which the journalist selectively chooses and ignores facts and interprets or paraphrases those facts to reach an unwarranted conclusion." And I would say that's a fair assessment.
And you see more and more of that. And I've been very clear about the distinction that for decades I wrote news, and I really like writing editorial.
Sure.
And I've made a point about it. This is editorial. I mean, we're talking editorial. This isn't news.
Right.
We pick through the news to get it and then give our opinion. But this sort of stuff is, and it can be so subtle. The way you choose words, it may not be a lie, but the impact of the word that you choose flavors what you've
absolutely.
said.
Even something as minor as a preposition can completely change the
Exactly.
meaning of what you're saying.
Exactly.
And that's, obviously I'm an editor, and that's the thing that people don't get about language.
right.
The average person doesn't get.
Yeah.
The other thing, too, and I think this goes back to how we're always saying that only conservatives hold themselves to a high standard. And that is, I've seen that type of reporting done on some, new media blog sites, and I reject that as well. If I see conservatives selectively picking which facts they choose to report,
If they're talking about news.
right,
not
that's what I'm
editorial,
saying. The story aggregating that you've talked about.
Yeah.
If they're doing that type of reporting, it's supposed to be factual. And if they're selectively choosing, but they're to support the conservative side, I'm like, no, I don't accept that either.
It's either news or it isn't.
Right.
Yeah. And I would get stuff edited with the magazine, and they go, I find a word missing. I go, "What'd you do that for?" I said, "Nah," and I wouldn't really think of it that way, but it is. Anyway, we're going to come back. We'll wrap things up, but we're also going to talk about voter fraud.
Safer USA, Chicago's most trusted name in firearm training, is offering beginners classes, tactical pistol and rifle, long-range rifle to 600 yards, and the most comprehensive Illinois concealed carry program available. The On Target Radio co-hosts David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz will prepare you to carry a firearm for personal protection, including firearm, holster, and ammunition selection. A comprehensive law review designed to keep you out of trouble and even how to deal with home invasions. Firearm, ammunition, holster, class notebook, and lunch are provided. Safer USA and the Aurora Sportsman's Club invite you to participate in this one-of-a-kind Illinois concealed carry program that also qualifies you for Florida, Utah, and Arizona non-resident permits. Find out what over 6,000 students already know at saferusa.com.
Or call 815-741-3474. That's 815-741-3474. Safer USA. Choosing to own a firearm is your business. Teaching you to own it responsibly is ours.
In need of a ride to O'Hare or Midway Airport? Well, look no further. The Yellow Checker Cab Company is the cab company for you. With the Yellow Checker Cab Company, you will always be greeted by a friendly face and arrive safely and on time for your flight. Start your trip off right by taking advantage of one of their limos, shuttle vans, cabs, or courtesy cars. And airport trips are not all they specialize in. This 24-hour cab service will pick you up anytime, any day, for any occasion. From bachelorette parties to school dances to just a night out with friends. Yellow Checker Cab Company has the best rates in town. So sit back, relax, and leave the driving to the professionals. Once you experience their fast and affordable cab service, you'll be a customer for life. When it comes to cab companies, be sure to choose Yellow Checker Cab because you have the right to expect certain things from your cab company. For further information or to book your trip today, call 815-744-2900. That's 815-744-2900.
You're listening to On Target Radio with David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz. Here's David and Gretchen with more interesting conversation on gun control, concealed carry, freedom of speech, and other red meat issues that affect your life. Stand by. Here's Gretchen with your action items for the week.
The following Safer USA classes are at our facility in Waterman, Saturday and Sunday, July 8th and 9th, Illinois Concealed Carry 1. When seconds count, the police are only minutes away. That's why you should get Illinois Concealed Carry. This 16-hour class will be taught by David and Gretchen and meets the training requirements for Illinois Concealed Carry as well as Florida, Arizona, and Utah. Sunday, July 9th, Long Range Rifle, taught by Ed Janka. To sign up for classes, go to saferusa.com and click on Register.
You know, it still warms the cockles of my heart at the open house, ISRA open house. A fair number of people still came up and talked about how they like our show. And,
yeah, absolutely.
You know, that was, and we didn't have a display set up or anything like we usually do. We were just out there shooting video.
They just saw us.
And they recognized
us.
I heard you were videoing somebody or other, and I heard somebody ask you work with David?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't remember who that was, but somebody did ask.
Yeah. I heard it in the background. You work with David? He goes, no.
Blanket denial.
I never heard of the guy before in my life, no. I just bought the logo on the shirt, that's all.
You're like, I bought this at the Goodwill.
Yeah, it was, it had blood stains on it, but it was fine. It was not a problem. We'll talk a little bit about this voter fraud, but I really want to get to Germany. Let me rephrase that. I don't want to get to Germany. But
you couldn't pay me to go to Germany at this point.
Anywhere in Europe, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know,
I do like this campus story, too. We'll have to bring that back next week.
Campus story?
The Kansas campus carry.
Oh, yeah.
Say that 5 times fast.
Yeah. The Democrats are always talking about, they give us a hard time. There's no voter fraud. That's, well, you know what? The interesting statement that came out of this piece in the Constitution, which I think we all just intrinsically sort of knew it, but to see it in black and white was interesting, and that is Democrats couldn't get elected if they didn't have those groups.
Oh, yeah.
If the dead didn't vote and if they weren't getting illegal aliens and all that kind of stuff.
I'm sure occasionally a Democrat would get elected, but it would be tougher. It would be rarer.
Yeah, there's. You're right. I'm using a broad brush when I say that because there's still, they're Democrats who are good people somewhere. The guy who co-sponsored concealed carry Brandon down in Southern Illinois, really great guy. We were, by being in Vegas, and I like him.
He's a pro Second Amendment Democrat.
Very pro Second Amendment Democrat. That's right. But yeah, so Indiana, they are indicting a dozen people. What they did is they falsified as many as 45,000. Just wrap your brain around this. And it wasn't for Republicans, okay?
Right.
As many as 45,000 voter applications. I don't know what the margin was, but it sure as heck wasn't 45,000.
Yeah.
That's a huge
and
number.
that's one state.
That's
just Indiana.
Exactly.
That's the really shocking thing is if you multiply that times 50, now you've got some actual
serious numbers.
Yeah, some real numbers. Yeah, the other thing I find interesting about this is that the group that spearheaded this fraudulent voter registration activity is called Patriot Majority USA. Now, if you had to guess,
sounds conservative,
Republican or Democrat, it sounds Republican, but they have ties to the Democratic Party.
Yeah, well, there's a shocker.
Including Harry Reid and Bill Clinton.
Yeah. Remember, it was Terry McAuliffe in Virginia that tried to get felons the right to vote.
Yes.
And the funniest part about that is because he openly admits that they're probably going to vote for Hillary. Mm-hmm. So there's your endorsement.
Yeah.
Felons, let's get the felons to vote. They'll vote for Hillary.
We'll take care of the problem.
Well, it's one of their own. Yeah. This story bothers me. Merkel, who I've had no love for, Angela, I think she pronounced it
Angela
Merkel,
Angela.
Who's Chancellor of Germany. Yes. She's the one who's going, we have to do more, we have to take in more Muslims, we have to do this, we have to do that. Now says, well, yeah, we're probably going to be a Sharia country. We're probably going to be a Muslim, It's just like, I don't think it's even throwing in the towel. I think she welcomes this.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like she's being negative about it. She says our country is going to carry on changing, and integration is also a task for the society, taking up the task of dealing with immigrants.
There's really no need for ISIS. Just to look at this in a pragmatic way.
No, not really.
The point, when you look at the numbers in Europe, this is scary. So Germany has 4 to 5 million Muslims, okay? Mm-hmm. If you look at France, 30% of the children ages 20 years and below are Muslim. 30% of French children. And they're French, they're born there. Mm-hmm. The ratio in Paris and Marseille has soared to 45%. Paris, one of my favorite towns.
Wow.
Southern France, there's more mosques than churches. France has been Christian and Catholic forever.
Mm-hmm.
UK, which is so really out of control, the last 30 years, Muslim population has gone from 82,000 to 2.5 million in the UK. There are over 1,000 mosques throughout Great Britain. They've taken over Christian churches and turned them into mosques.
Yeah.
Belgium, 50% of the newborns are Muslim. And the Islamic population is hovering at 25%. Now, I forget what the number is. I don't remember the number that once you reach a certain point, it's like a foregone conclusion. I forget what that is, but it's lower than those numbers.
Right.
It's lower than those numbers, whatever it is.
Yeah, you're right, though. I mean, it's a different form of jihad. They call it immigration jihad.
Exactly.
And that's what they're doing.
Like these French. They're French.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't say deport them because they're home.
Right. They were born there.
Right. What are you going to do?
It's like these anchor babies in the U.S.
Exactly. And I've heard people say this. I know that there are Mexicans across the border illegally who come to this country and are hard workers. I know that. And probably it's the majority. I wouldn't doubt that it's the majority. The problem is there's absolutely no screening process whatsoever. While you may be getting a lot of people who do jobs that Americans don't, all the sort of cliche things they say, which may or may not be true, but it's not worth the price.
I just don't understand why people don't understand that illegal is illegal.
Period.
Right. I mean, if you come here without someone saying that you have permission to come here, you've already committed a crime.
Yeah, it's not undocumented.
Yeah. This whole undocumented worker is just euphemistic bullshit, and it's, you know, it's untoward. We're better than that.
And the thing about it is, what does that say to the people who are legally trying to come to this country?
Right. What about the people who signed up, they waited in line, they waited
years.
their turn, you know, they got sponsors, etc. All the things that you have to do to come here legally. What about those people?
And interestingly, those people, and this is going to obviously be a generalization, but interestingly, those people who come here legally, particularly Asians, excel. Mm-hmm. Now, Asians are very cliquish. You know, they live in their own little enclave, but then so do Poles. You know what I'm saying? So do there's you go in Chicago, and there's ethnic neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. But when's the last time you heard of the Chinese rioting? You know, I mean,
Boxer Rebellion.
They come to this country, they get the education. Mm-hmm. and they get it. They really do get it, mm-hmm. and they're hard workers. And okay, they tend to stick to themselves, but that doesn't bother me so much because even if they stick to themselves, they're still good citizens. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, it's not a bad thing. They want to speak their own language. They want to eat their own food. I don't see a problem with that.
But they're not anti-government. They pay their taxes. They do what they do, and okay, I get that.
And people who come here legally and bring their children here legally, or have their children here legally, they have a different mindset. They beat it into their children.
Literally.
That, well, sometimes, you know, tiger moms notwithstanding, you know, they beat it into their children that this is a privilege. Where we came from is not as good as where we are now, and you have to, you know, you have to work to stay here.
And nobody owes you anything.
Right, exactly. That, you know, this is a land of opportunity that does not compare to where I came from, and you have to take advantage of that opportunity and don't squander it. You know, and I don't think necessarily people who come here illegally necessarily have that attitude.
They don't typically. A
lot of times they come here, they make money, they either send it home or they take it home.
Yeah, and that's very common. It's very common with ethnic people who come to this country in general, but particularly I think the illegal ones come across the border because in all fairness, they have economic opportunity here, even though they're jobs that some of us may not want to do. Mm-hmm. They don't have any jobs in Mexico.
Right.
And they come here and they work. And I'm going to tell you something. I mean, we've had plenty of Hispanic people work around the house and stuff like that, and they work their ass off. I mean, they come out, it's boiling hot, and they work like...
A couple of Russian guys come over and replace 2 big windows in my house, 2.5 hours. I couldn't believe it. I thought it was going to be like 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah. So you can't say that they don't do their work. But the problem is, if illegal's illegal.
Yeah.
It's just really that simple. Illegal's illegal.
Sign up, wait your turn, do it the right way.
I don't know. I don't know how, at this point, I don't know how you could turn the tide. I really don't.
Well, you just have to enforce the laws that already exist.
The courts keep shooting Trump down on stopping...
Sure. Well, the travel bans.
The travel bans, yeah. Which, that in and of itself tells you something. Anyway, I have a minute and 22 seconds left. So
I that's all I need to talk about this Kansas college professor thing.
Oh yeah, like somebody cares about that.
It's all hyperbole.
Yeah.
In 2013, Kansas passed a law permitting concealed carry of handguns in all public places, and colleges and universities could choose exemption until 2017
this year, yeah.
until now.
Yeah.
And so now there's a couple of college professors who are throwing a bitchy fit, and they're literally quitting their jobs, probably moving out of state so they can be college professors somewhere else because they don't feel safe with guns in the classroom. But hyperbole alert, okay. This one guy, his name is Jacob Dorman. He is a professor who resigned from University of Kansas, and this is what he put in his resignation letter. Kansas can have great universities, or it can have concealed carry in classrooms, but it cannot have both.
Yeah, right. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen tonight, and we appreciate you tell your friends about On Target Radio.
We'd also like to thank our engineer, Eric Allen, and our sponsors, the Will County chapter of the Illinois State Rifle Association, Yellow Checker of Joliet, My Editor, Creative Business Services, the Aurora Sportsman's Club, and Safer USA.
And come back next week.